My husband in the room with my daughter-in-law. What I saw that morning changed my life forever. When I entered the guest room, I found my husband Derrick with my daughter-in-law Aaliyah in an intimate scene. But that wasn't all. My son Marcus had secrets that left me speechless. As I turned to leave, I saw my son Marcus standing in the hallway. His face was as pale as marble. "Mom," he whispered, "this has been going on for months, and there's something you still don't know. My name is Evelyn. I'm 60 years old, and I thought I was living the best years of my life. Derrick and I built a small inn together in Charleston, South Carolina, and it was finally starting to thrive after decades of hard work. Our son Marcus, 32, had just returned from a culinary graduate program and was about to marry Aaliyah, a young chef he met during his studies. That Friday, the wedding was set for 2 weeks from now. The arrangements were ready, the menu finalized, and the invitations sent out. I woke up early, as always, to prepare breakfast for the guests. Our inn is small, only 8 rooms, but we pride ourselves on personalized attention. The aroma of homemade bread filled the kitchen as I prepared the water for the coffee. Aaliyah had arrived the night before for her dress adjustments. She was staying in the guest room in the main house, while Marcus would stay at his apartment in the city until the wedding. Derrick, who usually helped me with breakfast, was strangely absent. I thought he was fixing something in the house. He was always good at that. I decided to look for him. The house was quiet except for a faint murmur coming from the hallway that led to the rooms. I thought perhaps Aaliyah was talking to Derrick about some wedding details. The guest room door was slightly ajar. I stopped before knocking. Through the crack, I saw something I never imagined. Derrick sitting on the edge of the bed, Aaliyah standing between his legs. Her hands were on her waist beneath the nightgown I had given her. They were kissing with a familiarity that made it clear this wasn't the first time. "The guests are arriving in an hour," he whispered. "We can't be late." "Just a little longer," she replied, unbuttoning his shirt. "Marcus won't be back until tonight." Hearing my son's name from her lips as she touched my husband was a dagger to the heart. I stepped back, trying not to make a sound, and then I saw him. Marcus, standing at the end of the hallway staring at me. Our eyes met with a devastating understanding. He knew, too, and judging by his expression, he had known for a long time. He motioned for me to follow him to the back terrace. My legs were shaking. When we stepped into the fresh air, the tears started to fall. "Since when do you know?" I asked. 3 months, he replied in a controlled voice, but his eyes were filled with pain. I found messages on his phone. I thought it was flirting at first, but then he pulled out his phone and showed me proof. Messages, photos, hotel bookings when Derrick was supposedly away buying supplies and Aaliyah visiting vendors. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked, torn between rage and anguish. I wanted to be sure. When I confirmed, "I thought it might be better if you never found out." I had already ended things with Aaliyah privately, but we agreed to keep up appearances to avoid a scandal that would affect the inn. But then I found something worse. My heart stopped for a second. Then I found something involving the inn, its finances, and a plan to get us out of here. The world started spinning. 43 years of marriage, a lifetime built step by step, and it was all crumbling in a single morning. "Tell me everything," I said, wiping my tears. "Don't hide anything from me." As the sun rose over Charleston and the guests began to wake in the inn we had built with so much love, my son revealed to me the magnitude of a betrayal that threatened not only to destroy my marriage, but everything we had built together. Marcus led me to the office at the back of the inn. The space that had always been my refuge now felt strange, like it belonged to someone else. He closed the door and pulled out an envelope filled with documents, bank statements, contracts, business proposals, printed emails. It all started when I noticed Aaliyah was very interested in the inn's finances, Marcus began. At first, I thought it was professional curiosity, but she started asking very specific questions about the property titles, loans, insurance policies. He showed me a copy of the inn's original contract. The property had been purchased under Derrick and my names decades ago, when it was just an old abandoned house we restored with our own hands. Dad has been altering documents, Mom. He opened a company in his name 2 years ago without including you, and started transferring properties to that company. I felt the blood drain from my face. How? I signed everything with him. No, you didn't sign, Marcus said, placing several documents in front of me with a forged signature. Look closely. The signatures were nearly perfect, but I could tell the difference. The pressure of the pen, the curve of my name. Why would he do this? I whispered. Marcus took a deep breath. Aaliyah isn't who we thought. She was never a chef in Portugal. She worked for a real estate company that buys historic properties to turn them into luxury developments. He showed me photos of her at corporate events, wearing a suit. They plan to sell the inn. There's an offer from an international hotel chain interested in the land. The value is astronomical. He showed me the document, a huge amount. But the inn is our life, I murmured. To you and me, yes, Marcus said. But to Dad, it seems like just an asset to sell. And the wedding? I asked. Reality hit me again. Marcus nodded slowly. Aaliyah met me in Portugal, but it wasn't by chance. The developer found out about the inn in Charleston and sent her to get close to me. That was the plan from the start. Marry me to gain legal access to the family, help Dad move the assets to the new company without raising suspicions, and then, after the divorce, split the proceeds from the sale. I felt a weight on my chest. And your dad? I asked. How did he get involved in this? Marcus lowered his gaze. I'm not sure when the romance started, but from the messages I found, it was Aaliyah who first approached him with the business proposal. And then things became personal. I think he was already dissatisfied, maybe bored with life here. He talked a lot about friends who had sold their businesses and moved to the coast or warmer cities, always fantasizing about a luxurious retirement. I remembered how Derrick would sigh as he watched reports about resorts and beaches. I always thought it was just harmless dreams. Never imagined they were seeds of something real. And you discovered all this 3 months ago? I asked with a broken voice. I found a document on Aaliyah's laptop when she left it open. It was a report for her bosses at the development company, describing the progress of the Blue Hill Inn acquisition project. There were pictures of you, me, and Dad, descriptions of our routine, of the finances. It looked like a spy report. I closed my eyes. It wasn't just infidelity. It was a full-on conspiracy to rob us. What did you do when you discovered it? I confronted him, Marcus admitted. He denied it at first, but when he saw I had proof, he offered me a part of the deal. He told me I could start a new life, open my own restaurant anywhere in the world. I felt nauseous. And your dad? Did you confront him? I couldn't. He confessed. I didn't have the courage. I pretended to stay with Aaliyah to buy time, gather more evidence, and protect you in the inn. I was planning to call off the wedding at the last minute, saying I had doubts. But I never imagined you'd discover everything like this. I looked out the window of the inn office. Every corner, every wall, every flower. We had built it all with love over decades. Or so I thought. What do we do now? I asked with a cold calm. Marcus looked at me, surprised. We still have time, he said. The final transfer is scheduled for after the wedding. Technically, the inn is still ours. Then we'll act, I interrupted, sitting up straight. Today. I know a real estate lawyer. We can see him discreetly in the city, Marcus suggested. I nodded. And in the meantime, we need to pretend everything's normal. They can't know we've figured it out. Marcus looked at me, worried. Can you be around both of them? Knowing all of this? I took a deep breath. A new, unknown strength filled me. I've taken care of this family for 43 years. I'm not going to let them destroy it now. We heard footsteps. Marcus quickly hid the documents just as Derrick opened the door with a casual smile. "Ah, here you are. The guests are asking about breakfast, Evelyn." "I'll be right there, dear," I replied, using a voice I didn't even recognize. "I was just reviewing some wedding details with Marcus." Derrick nodded and left. His footsteps faded down the hall. "It starts now," I whispered. "Their game. But now we play too." The rest of the day was a whirlwind. I attended to the guests, smiled, answered questions, all while watching Derrick and Aaliyah exchange glances and touches I had ignored before. How could I have been so blind? In the afternoon, when the inn was empty, Marcus and I discreetly left. We told Derrick we were going to check the floral arrangements, another lie in the web of deceit. The lawyer, Dr. Kenneth Bradley, had his office in an old building downtown. He was a serious man with a sharp gaze. He listened to everything without interrupting. "Mrs. Evelyn," he said at the end, "what your husband did is fraud and forgery. All the transfers made with your forged signature can be contested." "How long will it take?" I asked. "Trials can take years, but we can request immediate measures to stop any further transfers." "And the money he's already diverted?" Marcus asked. "That's more complicated," Bradley replied, "especially if he moved it to accounts abroad or turned it into assets." I felt a stab of desperation. "What do you recommend?" "Confront him with the evidence and negotiate. With this, he would face serious charges." "I don't want to negotiate," I said firmly. "I want my inn back. I want to protect what's ours." Bradley nodded slowly. "Then we will act with the full weight of the law." He outlined a plan. We would file a formal complaint, request a freeze on all assets, and block any transactions related to the inn. No serious buyer would move forward with a property under litigation. "And the wedding?" I asked, looking at Marcus. "I won't marry her," he said, "but we need to keep up appearances until we secure the legal measures." The lawyer confirmed. Canceling immediately would alert them. We left with a folder full of documents and a clear plan. The sky, gray and heavy, seemed to foreshadow the storm ahead. "Are you okay, Mom?" Marcus asked. "No," I replied honestly, "but I will be." He took my hand. "We'll get through this together." When we returned to the inn, we found Aaliyah in the kitchen preparing a tasting for the wedding menu. When she saw us, she smiled broadly. "Oh, you're back. Come try this sauce I'm making for the main dish." I watched her with new eyes. Her beauty, which once seemed natural, now had a calculated, almost predatory air. Even her accent, which she claimed was from Cape Verde, no longer sounded charming, but rehearsed. "It looks delicious," I commented with a forced smile as I tasted the spoonful she offered. "You're very talented, Imani." "Thank you, Mrs. Evelyn," she replied, pleased with the compliment. She was a consummate actress. "I want everything to be perfect for our big day," she added sweetly. Our big day. The sound almost felt offensive. "We were just talking about that," Marcus intervened, playing his part with surprising naturalness. "We're thinking of postponing the wedding for a few weeks." Imani's smile faltered just slightly. "Postpone? But why? Everything's almost ready." "Aunt Clarissa had a fall," I quickly invented. "She's hospitalized in Atlanta. Since she's Marcus's godmother, we want to wait until she can attend." Imani frowned a little, confused but trying to maintain composure. "Wow, I'm so sorry. Of course we can consider a small delay, although we'll have to review everything with the vendors." "I'll take care of it," Marcus said naturally. "It wouldn't be more than a month." Before Imani could respond, Derrick entered the kitchen. He was wearing the gray sweater I had knitted for him last winter. Seeing him wearing something my hands had made with love stabbed me like a knife. "What's everyone doing here?" he asked cheerfully. This smells incredible, Imani." His eyes met hers, and there it was. That conspiratorial glance, that silent intimacy of lovers I had never noticed before. "Marcus wants to postpone the wedding," Imani informed him in a controlled but tense voice. "His aunt had an accident." Derrick turned toward our son, surprised and also alarmed. "Really? This is the first I've heard about it. Why didn't you tell me?" "We got the call while we were in the city," Marcus replied calmly. "It's not serious, but she'll need weeks to recover." Derrick studied him too long before nodding. "It makes sense to wait. Clarissa was always like a second mother to you." The air in the kitchen thickened with so much pretense. I acted like I was wiping down a counter that was already spotless, avoiding looking directly at Derrick. How could he be there, discussing his son's fake wedding, with his lover by his side, while planning to destroy everything we had built? "I'm going to check the rooms," I said abruptly, feeling like I'd lose my composure if I stayed another second. As I left, I heard Imani murmur, "She's acting strange today. Do you think she suspects anything?" I didn't wait for the answer. I went upstairs to our room, the same one where I had slept for decades, believing Derrick loved me as much as I loved him. I sat on the edge of the bed and let the tears fall. I cried for the betrayal, for what was lost, for the marriage I thought was my foundation, which had actually been crumbling silently. The rain began to fall, hitting the window as if it wanted to wash the world clean. I cried for what would be my last autumn with Derrick. The following days were an exercise in painful self-control. Every meal shared with Derrick, every fake smile aimed at Imani, every conversation about the future, all of it tore me apart inside, but I never allowed it to show. Meanwhile, Marcus and I worked with Dr. Kenneth Bradley to execute our plan. On Monday, the documents were officially presented to the court. The precautionary measures to block any transactions related to the inn were approved. My name was removed from all the joint bank accounts, preventing Derrick from using it anymore. The fraud report was filed with the police. Life at the inn continued as if nothing had changed, guests coming and going, oblivious to the storm brewing behind the walls. Imani kept up with the wedding preparations, accepting the delay, though I could see her anxiety grow. She made phone calls in hushed tones. She looked around with suspicion. One afternoon, a week after the discovery, I was putting away sheets when I heard voices in the guest room. The closed door didn't stop the old walls from revealing everything. It was Imani. "They're acting strange. Something's not right." Derrick responded with impatience, but his tone also held insecurity. "You're imagining things. Evelyn's always been distracted, and Marcus is nervous about the wedding." "It's not just that," she insisted. "Yesterday, I saw Marcus put away documents when I walked into the office. He looked guilty." There was a tense silence. "I think we should accelerate the plan," said Imani. "The buyers are getting impatient. If we wait too long, they may back out. The wedding was just a means. We can cancel it, and that's it. The important thing is to close the deal now." My heart pounded in my chest. They wanted to move faster than expected. I quickly descended the stairs and found Marcus at the reception. "We need to call Dr. Bradley right now," I whispered. "They're going to try to sell the inn as soon as possible." Marcus went to make the call. He returned 15 minutes later, visibly relieved. "The precautionary measures have been approved," he said. "The inn is officially in dispute. Any attempt to sell will be invalidated, and the investigation is still active. The detective wants to meet with us tomorrow for the statements." I nodded. "Then we're protected. For now." "Yes, but we have to act carefully. If they suspect we know something, they'll run." I finished. "With everything they've already stolen." That night, we had dinner together, just like so many times before. I made cod with potatoes, Derrick's favorite dish. Serving him something he loved felt almost absurd. "It's delicious, Evelyn," he said naturally. "Thank you." I replied, feeling nothing. "It's your mother's recipe." Imani watched us carefully. "You have such a beautiful story together," she said in a syrupy voice. 43 years. It's a lifetime." "It is," I replied, looking at her directly. "We built this inn together, every brick. There's so much of us here that sometimes I think the walls hold our memories." For a moment, I saw discomfort in Derrick's eyes. He cleared his throat. "And speaking of the inn, I've been thinking about some renovations." I gave him an innocent look. "What kind of renovations?" "Little things," he said casually. "I'm in talks with some investors interested in properties near Asheville. Tourism in the region is growing and we could take advantage of it." "Investors?" I repeated calmly. "Just preliminary talks," he answered quickly. "Nothing concrete yet." Imani intervened with fake enthusiasm. "It would be wonderful to modernize this place. Keep the rustic charm, of course, but add luxury amenities, maybe a spa, a heated pool." "A pool would completely change the character of the place," I observed softly. "We've always prided ourselves on offering an authentic mountain experience, not a generic resort." Marcus took a breath to intervene. "Mom's right. The tourists today want comfort and luxury, even in rustic places," said Imani with a condescending tone that made my fingers tighten around the fork. "Interesting how sure you are of knowing what tourists want," I replied, letting my real voice show, "considering you're a chef, not a hospitality expert." A brief, uncomfortable silence fell over the table. Marcus cleared his throat. "Actually, I was thinking," he said, playing along, "that we could register the inn as a historical landmark. The building is over 100 years old. That would give us tax benefits and protect the original architecture." I saw a flash of panic in Derrick and Imani's eyes before they recovered their composure. "Historical landmark brings a lot of restrictions," Derrick objected. "It would be a bureaucratic nightmare." "I think it's an excellent idea," I insisted. "After all, we want to preserve what we built here, right? For future generations." Derrick studied me for a long time. For a moment, I saw something in his eyes that reminded me of the man I once loved. Hesitation, maybe guilt or regret. But it disappeared so quickly that I doubted I had seen it. "Sure," he said. "We can explore all the options." After dinner, while Imani offered to wash the dishes, another act in her perfect daughter-in-law role, Derrick called me to walk in the garden. The night was cold, the sky dark over the North Carolina mountains, dotted with stars. "You've been distant lately," he said as we walked among the roses I had planted decades ago. "Oh, really?" I replied, watching my breath in the air. "I guess I'm tired. Organizing a wedding is exhausting." "It's more than that." He stopped and turned to look at me. "You're different, more reserved." "People change, Derrick. Sometimes we discover things that transform us." "What things?" His voice held a note of apprehension. For a moment, I thought about confronting him right there, in the garden we built together, pulling off his mask, forcing him to face his lies, but it wasn't time yet. The plan had to come to fruition. "Nothing specific," I said, looking at the mountains. "Just the weight of the years. It makes you think about what really matters in life." He seemed relieved, though still suspicious. "You know I love you, right?" Those words, once a refuge, now sounded hollow, false, like an actor reciting a script he no longer knew how to perform. "I know." I lied. That night, lying next to him, I heard his peaceful breathing. How could he sleep like that while planning to destroy everything I loved? What emptiness did he carry inside? And what did that say about me, that I never saw the falsehood beside me? The next morning, Marcus and I left early to meet Detective Rodriguez at the local police station. He was a burly man with a sharp gaze. As he reviewed our documents, he listed forgery of signatures, document fraud, asset diversion. "How long will the investigation take?" I asked. "Normally, weeks or months," he replied. But since they might try to leave the country or finalize the sale, we'll speed up the process." "They plan to sell soon," Marcus said, "maybe in the next few days." The detective nodded gravely. "Then we must act quickly. They have two options." He explained that we could. 1. Keep a discreet investigation, gathering more evidence. 2. Intervene immediately, going to the inn with officers and officially notifying Derrick and Imani. "If we intervene now, they might destroy evidence or run away," he warned, "but we can also stop the sale." Marcus and I exchanged looks. "We already have judicial measures blocking property transactions," I said. "True," the detective replied, "but determined people always find loopholes. I've seen it all." I took a deep breath. The decision was heavy. Part of me wanted to see their faces when they were confronted. I wanted immediate justice, but if they got alerted, they might escape with what they had already stolen. "Let's continue with the discreet investigation," I finally decided, "but with the utmost urgency. Meanwhile, we'll maintain the charade at home." "Are you sure you can?" Marcus asked. "Live with them, pretending—" "I built that in with my own hands," I replied, lifting my chin. "I can endure a few more days of lies to save it." On the way back, Marcus drove in silence. The mountains around Asheville were covered in fog, a sad landscape that matched my mood. "What are you thinking?" I asked. Marcus sighed. "How we never really know the people. Not even those we love." "Your father wasn't always like this," I said, surprising myself by defending him. "There was a time when he loved this place, when the dream was ours." "When do you think it changed?" I thought for a moment. "Maybe when the inn started to succeed, about 5 years ago. The better we did, the more unhappy he seemed, like he lost the spark of chasing the dream." "And how did you not see anything about Imani?" he asked. It hurt, but it was fair. "When you live with someone for so long," I replied, "you start to see them through the version you built in your mind, not the real person." We arrived at the inn. An unfamiliar black sedan was parked in front of the entrance. Marcus and I exchanged glances. Inside, we found Derrick with 2 men in suits, documents on the table. When he saw us, he stood up with a surprised expression and guilt. "I didn't expect you to come back so soon," he said. "Clearly," I replied, looking at the papers, "we interrupted something." The older man, gray-haired, impeccably dressed, came over and shook my hand. "Mrs. Evelyn Carter, a pleasure. I'm Mr. Gerald Hampton from Hampton Development Group." A chill ran down my spine. "We're reviewing investment possibilities," he explained kindly. "Your husband mentioned you were considering a major renovation." I looked at him directly. "How interesting. I don't remember finalizing that decision." The younger man, with a calculating expression, interjected, "Actually, we propose a full partnership. Hampton Development would take over the management of the place, transforming it into a luxury boutique resort, while you would retain a minority stake." "Minority stake," I repeated slowly. "In the inn I built from scratch?" The air in the room grew tense. Derrick stepped forward, placing a protective hand on my shoulder. "Gentlemen," he said with surprising calm, "I appreciate your interest in our family business, but I'm afraid there's been a misunderstanding. The inn is not for sale, nor are we looking for outside partners at this time." Marcus Barrow seemed genuinely surprised. "Your father led us to believe the family was united in this decision," he commented. "My father," Derrick replied coldly, "does not speak for the whole family." Marcus moved uncomfortably, clearly unprepared for the confrontation. "Derrick, Evelyn, can we discuss this privately? Mr. Barrow and Mr. Henderson traveled from Chicago for this meeting." "I'm sorry for the inconvenience," I replied firmly, "but as my son said, there's nothing to discuss. The inn is not for sale." At that moment, Tasha entered the room, momentarily bewildered to see us there. She quickly recovered, smiling with her false softness. "Ah, You've met the Horizon representatives. Isn't the proposal fascinating? Her naturalness, acting as if she were a legitimate co-owner of the place's future, sparked something inside me, a rage that had been smoldering in silence for days. "Tasha," I said with a calmness that bordered on dangerous, "why don't you show them the garden while I prepare some coffee? I'm sure they'll want to see the grounds before leaving." She hesitated, glanced at Marcus, and he nodded. "Sure," she replied. "This way, gentlemen." As soon as they left, I turned to Marcus, no longer trying to hide my fury. "How dare you try to sell our inn behind my back?" Marcus raised his hands. "Evelyn, it's not what it seems. We're just exploring options. Nothing's been decided yet." "Don't lie to me," I snapped louder than I intended. "You talked about a minority stake. That's not exploring options. It's negotiating the sale of our home." Derrick stepped between us. "Dad, what's really going on?" Marcus rubbed his face, suddenly looking much older. "It's complicated." "Then explain it," Derrick demanded. "Because it seems pretty simple to me. You're trying to sell the inn without consulting Mom, the legal co-owner." For a moment, I thought he would confess everything. I saw the struggle in his eyes, but it vanished, replaced by calculated coldness. "I'm doing what's best for everyone," he declared. "This inn has consumed our lives for decades. We're getting old, Evelyn. I don't want to spend my last years fixing pipes and washing guest laundry." "Is that your reason?" I asked incredulously. "You're tired?" "It's not throwing everything away," he insisted. "It's evolving. The Horizon proposal is generous. Enough money for us to retire comfortably, maybe even buy that house in Florida you always wanted." I shook my head. "I never wanted a house in Florida, Marcus. That was always your dream." We stood there, staring at each other, and I understood the true magnitude of the gulf between us. It wasn't just the financial betrayal. It was realizing that after 40 years together, my own husband didn't even know me. "This conversation isn't over," I said, "but now we have guests to attend to." I went to the kitchen to prepare the coffee. From the window, I saw Tasha proudly showing off the rose bushes I had planted and tended for decades. The ease with which she claimed my work as her own was almost admirable. At that moment, I made a decision. I wouldn't pretend anymore. The game was over. Days later, after the confusing visit from the Horizon executives, the tension reached unbearable levels. Marcus was restless, constantly looking at his phone and making calls in secret. Tasha alternated between overly attentive and distant. Derrick and I kept in close contact with Dr. Coleman and Detective Harris. The investigation was progressing quickly. Experts were examining documents, following transfers, identifying foreign accounts. Solid evidence of Marcus's plan. 4 days later, I received a call from Dr. Coleman while I was buying supplies in Asheville. "Mrs. Evelyn," he said urgently, "we believe your husband and Miss Henderson are planning to leave the country." "How do you know?" "We found tickets bought in their names for Toronto, leaving tomorrow night, and a large transfer from one of the offshore accounts to a Canadian bank this morning." "They're running away," I whispered. "I'm afraid so. Detective Harris is preparing arrest warrants, but they won't be ready until tomorrow. If they suspect we're closing in, they could leave tonight." "What should I do?" "Go home and act normal. Harris will send an undercover officer to discreetly watch." I finished my shopping mechanically. Marcus hadn't just betrayed me in every possible way. He was planning to abandon me, flee to another country with my daughter-in-law, and our money. When I returned, I found Marcus attending to some newly arrived guests. Tasha was in the kitchen, everything perfect, except it was a theatrical performance. "I need help with the luggage," Marcus said with a smile. We went upstairs. When we were alone, he spoke. "I thought about going out to dinner tonight, just you and me. It's been a while since we've been alone." For a moment, I wanted to believe his sincerity, but I remembered the tickets. The money, the lies. "That sounds nice," I replied, But we have guests early tomorrow, maybe another day. I saw frustration in his eyes. He wanted to get me out of the inn that night. Later, I told Derrick everything in the linen room. "They're going to run," he said. "I know. And your father tried to get me out of the house today. We need to alert Harris. I already did. But without the warrants, they can't act unless we catch them in the act. Derrick made a decision. Then we'll catch them ourselves, with witnesses." That night, we planned every step. I would accept the dinner invitation at the last minute. Derrick would hide in the office. I would pretend to forget my purse and come back unexpectedly. If we caught them manipulating documents or preparing to flee, the undercover officer could intervene. As night fell, a strange calm washed over me. After days of unbearable tension, the end was near. I dressed carefully for the dinner. I chose a navy blue dress that Marcus had always praised, applied light makeup, and gathered my gray hair into a simple bun. I looked at myself in the mirror for a long moment. Who was this woman looking back at me? Familiar, yet strange. The same brown eyes that had seen love and betrayal, the same mouth that once smiled with joy and now tightened with determination. "You will survive this," I whispered to my reflection. "You've survived worse." Marcus was waiting for me in the living room, dressed formally, holding a bouquet of roses from my own garden. A knot formed in my chest. "You look beautiful," he said, handing me the flowers. "Thank you," I replied, accepting them mechanically. "Let me put them in water before we leave." In the kitchen, Tasha was preparing something that smelled wonderfully of garlic and wine. "Are you going out?" she asked, smiling sweetly. "Have fun. Don't worry about a thing. I'll take care of everything." I thought bitterly, "Sure you will," but only smiled. As we approached the front door, I feigned my carelessness. "Oh, I forgot my purse," I exclaimed. "Go ahead and warm up the car. I'll be back in a second." I ran to the room, grabbed my purse, and diverted my path to the office where Derrick was hiding. "We're leaving now," I whispered. "Stay alert," he replied seriously. "Be careful, Mom. If you notice anything strange, don't confront them alone." "I won't," I promised. "We'll just follow the plan." The restaurant Marcus chose was elegant and discreet, about 20 minutes from Asheville. During the drive, he seemed oddly nostalgic, reminiscing about the early years of the inn, the challenges we overcame, and the happy moments when we started to prosper. If I didn't know better, I'd say he was saying goodbye. We sat at a corner table with candles and a bottle of red wine he ordered without looking at the menu. "My favorite," I noted, with pain. "Evelyn," he said after the waiter poured the wine. "I know things have been complicated between us lately." "Complicated," I repeated neutrally, taking a sip of wine. He sighed, running a hand through his graying hair, a familiar gesture that hit me with nostalgia. "I want you to know that the years we spent together were the best of my life." I almost faltered. Almost. "How convenient for you to say that now," I replied, tapping my glass lightly against the table. After months of planning to sell our inn behind my back, he seemed surprised by my bluntness. "Evelyn, it's not that simple," he said. "Then explain it," I challenged. "Explain why you're trying to destroy everything we've built together." He looked around, uncomfortable in a public place. "This isn't the right place for that," he said. "When would it be, Marcus? After the sale is finalized, or when you flee to Toronto with the money?" His eyes widened in shock, speechless. Then understanding replaced surprise. "You know," he said, realizing. "I know everything," I affirmed, quietly but firmly. "About Tasha, the fake company, the transfers, the forgeries, the plans to sell the inn, and the tickets to Toronto for tomorrow." He paled, trembling as he held his wine glass. "Does it even matter?" "What matters is that it's over, Marcus. Right now, the police are preparing arrest warrants. The accounts have been frozen. The inn is under judicial protection." He looked like a man drowning. desperately searching for a lifeline. Evelyn, you don't understand. I was going to tell you everything eventually. I was going to give you a fair share. A fair share? I interrupted incredulously. Of what is legally half mine, of the inn we built with blood, sweat, and tears. How generous of you. It was a mistake, he admitted. I lost my way at some point. Tasha came along with these ideas of an easier life. Don't you dare blame her, I warned. You're an adult who made your decisions that destroyed our family. He lowered his head, defeated. What do you want, Evelyn? I want you to think about Derrick, I said firmly. Your son. The one you were willing to abandon without a word. I want you to face the consequences like a man, not run away in the night. It's too late, he whispered. There are things I can't undo. My phone vibrated, a message from Derrick. They're here. Tasha's packing. Police are on the way. My heart sped up. How could this be? Tasha should be alone at the inn, not with them. I need to go to the bathroom, I said abruptly, standing up. In the private hallway, I called Derrick. What's going on? 2 men arrived 10 minutes ago, he said, tense. They're not from Horizon. Tasha received them like she was expecting them. They're taking documents from the office and loading suitcases into their car. The officer just called in reinforcements, but he said we shouldn't interfere until they arrive. I'll be there in 15 minutes, I decided. Don't do anything reckless. I returned to the table, trying to control my expression. I need to go back to the hotel, I said, standing up and grabbing my purse. I forgot to leave important instructions for a guest arriving late today. Marcus looked at me with distrust. Now, in the middle of dinner? It's an emergency, I insisted. You can stay and finish your meal if you want. A somber understanding passed across his face. You know something's going on at the hotel right now, don't you? I didn't respond, just stared at him firmly. I'm going with you, he said, throwing the napkin on the table and calling the waiter to pay the bill. The drive back was tense and silent. Marcus drove too fast, his hands gripping the wheel so tightly that his knuckles turned white. I stared out the window at the lights of Asheville houses passing by, each one holding stories and lives we would never know. How many other marriages hid secrets as deep as ours? When we arrived at the hotel entrance, we saw the flashing lights of 2 police cars. Marcus slammed on the brakes. His face was a mask of panic. Angela, he pleaded, turning to me. It's not too late. We can fix this. Do you really think so? I asked softly. Some things, once broken, can't be repaired. I got out of the car and walked toward the hotel, feeling Marcus following a few steps behind me. In the front garden, a chaotic scene was unfolding. Tasha was being placed in the back of a police car while 2 men I had never seen before were handcuffed and leaning against another police car. Jerome ran to meet me. Thank God you arrived safely. They were taking everything. Documents, money, even some of your jewelry. Jewelry? I repeated, confused. We found them in Tasha's room, Officer Harris explained, approaching us. Apparently, she had been appropriating your personal items for a while. I looked at the jewelry the officer was holding in a plastic bag. The pearl necklace my mother gave me, the earrings Marcus gave me on our 20th anniversary, the ruby brooch that belonged to my grandmother. Small treasures that meant far more than their monetary value. Marcus stood frozen, watching the scene in horror. When Officer Harris approached him, he didn't resist. Marcus Turner, the officer said formally, you are under arrest for investigation of fraud, forgery of documents, and asset diversion. You have the right to remain silent. As the officer read the rights, Marcus looked at me one last time. There was something in his eyes, not just fear or regret, but something deeper. Maybe the late understanding of what he had thrown away. I'm sorry, he murmured as he was led to the patrol car. I stood there, in the garden I had cultivated for decades, watching my husband of so many years being taken away by the police. The roses I had planted now witnessed the end of my marriage. A cool breeze blew, causing the flowers to sway gently as if saying goodbye. Jerome placed a protective arm around my shoulders. "Are you okay, Mom?" "No," I replied honestly, "but I will be." The months that followed were an emotional roller coaster. The case became a small local scandal. The respected owner of the hotel in Savannah, betrayed by her husband, who conspired with her son's fake fiancé. Tasha was charged with not only fraud, but also embezzlement in her former job. The two men caught at the hotel were accomplices, hired to assist in the getaway and the transfer of stolen goods. Marcus, seeing the magnitude of the evidence, made a deal with the prosecution and confessed his crimes in exchange for a reduced sentence. I discovered he had embezzled nearly $2 million over the years, hidden in foreign accounts. With the help of the lawyers, we recovered most of the money. The divorce was finalized quickly. The hotel was fully transferred to my name, along with the recovered accounts. Marcus was sentenced to 4 years in prison, though he would likely serve less than 2. About 6 months later, I received a request for a visit. It was Mary Louise, Tasha's mother, a stylish woman who had never fully approved of her daughter's relationship with Jerome. Receiving her on the hotel terrace was one of the strangest moments of my life. 2 women bound by the betrayal of their loved ones, having tea as if it were a normal social visit. "I wanted to apologize in person," she said. "I never imagined Tasha was capable of something like this. None of us ever really knew the people we loved," I replied, surprised by the calm in my voice. "That's perhaps the hardest lesson." "She's always been ambitious," Mary Louise reflected, looking at the garden. "Since she was a child, she wanted more than we could give her." Her voice cracked, and I saw in her eyes the same pain I carried. "How is your son?" she asked finally. "Jerome is fine," I replied. "He helps me manage the hotel." What I didn't mention was that he had started a cautious relationship with a young historian who was visiting the area. Life moved forward, even when it seemed impossible. "And you?" Mary Louise asked. "How are you, really?" The question took me by surprise. Everyone around me seemed to avoid touching on my emotional wounds. "I'm discovering who I am without him," I replied. "It's terrifying and liberating at the same time." She nodded. We talked a little longer, sharing experiences of loss and rebuilding. When she left, I felt a strange peace. It was healing to share pain with someone who understood, even if it was the mother of the woman who almost destroyed my life. A year passed. The hotel not only survived the scandal, it thrived. The story attracted tourists fascinated by what had happened within its century-old walls. At first, the morbid curiosity bothered me, but I learned to accept it. One autumn afternoon, I received a letter. The envelope carried the seal of the penitentiary where Marcus was serving his sentence. I wanted to throw it away, but something stopped me. Perhaps the need for closure. I took it to the rose garden, sitting on the bench where Marcus and I used to watch the sunset. The letter was long, handwritten. Marcus apologized without expecting forgiveness. He explained how he had lost his way, how the routine had allowed silent resentments to build, how Tasha had represented an escape, an illusion of a second youth. There were no justifications, only explanations. And at the end, something that touched me more than expected. "Only now, locked up, do I understand what I destroyed. It wasn't the marriage or the inn. It was our life. The punishment isn't prison, Angela. It's knowing that I lost what really mattered." I folded the letter. I thought about forgiveness. I realized that I no longer hated Marcus. The pain was there, but the hate was gone. A gentle breeze moved the roses. I breathed deeply. Winter was approaching, but spring would come next, with new flowers and new possibilities. I put the letter away and stood up, ready to return to the hotel. My house, where Jerome would be waiting to discuss the expansion plans we had begun to develop. The life I knew had ended one autumn. But another unexpected life still to be discovered was just beginning, and this time it would be entirely mine. I walked through the hotel gardens, breathing the fresh air of late autumn. The roses, with their still vibrant flowers, seemed to whisper to me that new beginnings are always possible, even after the longest storm. Jerome appeared in the distance with a calm smile, holding plans and documents for the hotel's new projects. He didn't need to say anything. His presence was a reminder that, although the past couldn't be erased, the future was full of opportunities. I sat on the bench where we had dreamed together so many times, closing my eyes and letting the memories pass like leaves in the wind. There was sadness, yes, but also clarity. Every mistake, every loss had taught me to value my own strength, my ability to rebuild, and to choose my own path. Spring wouldn't take long to come, and with it, new flowers, new lives, new stories. This time, mine would be written by me with courage, with freedom, and with the certainty that endings can also be beginnings. I stood up, letting the breeze caress my face, and entered the hotel with firm steps. Life went on, and I was ready to live it fully like never before.